This is a bag of blue cotton candy. And this is the woman who was jailed for 3 months because police said it was methamphetamine. A simple bag of spun sugar led to a $1 million bond and a nightmare that spiraled out of control. This is the story of how a flawed $2 piece of technology and a justice system that blindly trusted destroyed a woman's life. Hi, I'm criminal defense attorney J. Scott Smith, and I've defended countless people charged with drug crimes in North Carolina for almost 2 decades. Roadside drug test kits are used in North Carolina and a lot of other states. And as this story shows, they're a big problem. Let's get into it. The normal day turned nightmare. On New Year's Eve 2016, Daisha Fincher was a passenger in a car driving through Monroe County, Georgia. It was just a normal day. She was a mother and a grandmother with no criminal history, not thinking about much besides her family and the upcoming holiday. But that normal day was about to be shattered. Deputies Cody Maples and Alan Henderson pulled the car over, supposedly for having window tints that were too dark. It's a minor infraction, the kind that often ends with a simple warning, but the stop quickly escalated. Though no ticket for the window tint was ever issued, the deputies asked to search the car, and Daisha and the driver consented. There, on the passenger side floorboard, sat a clear plastic bag. Inside was a fluffy blue crystal-like substance. The deputies pulled it out, immediately suspicious. Daisha told them exactly what it was, a simple bag of cotton candy. According to her lawsuit, one of the deputies even picked it up, sniffed it, and acknowledged that it smelled like cotton candy. But they didn't believe her. Instead, they pulled out a NARC-2 roadside field test. These kits are used by police all over the country. They're cheap, costing about $2 each, and they're convenient. An officer just drops a small amount of a suspicious substance into a pouch of chemicals and waits for a color change. In Daisha's case, the deputies tore off a piece of blue cotton candy, performed the test, and the chemical pouch turned blue. To them, that meant one thing: methamphetamine. Daisha was stunned. Methamphetamine? The word made no sense. She pleaded with the officers, begging them to test it again, certain there had been a mistake. I was pretty much begging them to test it again, she later recalled, but they refused. Based on that single faulty color change test, Daisha Fincher was handcuffed and arrested for trafficking methamphetamine and possession with intent to distribute. Her life was instantly turned upside down, all because a cheap chemical test couldn't tell the difference between an illegal drug and a children's carnival snack. The system's failure explained. As Daisha was taken into the Monroe County Jail, she entered a world that wasn't designed to find her innocence, but to process her guilt. The villain in this story isn't just a couple deputies, but the technology they put their faith in. The NARC-2 field test and others like it are notoriously unreliable. They're known for producing false positives. These kits don't actually identify a specific substance. Instead, they just react to certain chemical structures that are common in many things. A wild range of legal, everyday substances can trigger a false positive, from acne medication to household cleaners to chocolate and even sugar. The manufacturer, Searchy, even includes a disclosure stating that the test results are only presumptive and must be confirmed by an accredited laboratory. The Department of Justice issued similar guidelines over 2 decades ago, yet in practice these warnings are generally ignored. For an officer on the street, the color change becomes proof. For the prosecutor, it becomes probable cause. Daisha's case is a textbook example of this systemic failure. She was charged with drug trafficking, a serious felony. A judge, relying on the positive field test, set her bond at an impossible $1 million. Unable to pay, Daisha Fincher was trapped. She was now an inmate, stripped of her freedom, her identity reduced to a case number, and the system that put her there was in no hurry to find out if it had made a terrible mistake. For Daisha, the nightmare was just getting started. 3 months. That's how long she sat in a jail cell waiting for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to finally test the bag of cotton candy. While she was locked away, her life crumbled. She missed the birth of her twin grandsons. She couldn't comfort her daughter through the pain of a miscarriage. She suffered her own medical emergencies, including a broken hand and an ovarian cyst, but was denied proper care. Every day was a fight against despair, all while knowing that she was totally and completely innocent. The fight for freedom. Daisha's story isn't some bizarre one-off incident. It's a symptom of a much larger disease. A 2024 study from the University of Pennsylvania's Quattrone Center estimated that as many as 30,000 innocent people a year may be wrongly arrested for drug possession based on these faulty tests. Investigations have uncovered shocking error rates. A review in Las Vegas found that 33% of cocaine field tests between 2010 and 2013 were false positives. Data from Florida showed an error rate of around 21%. Here in North Carolina, problems are widespread, with at least 7 law enforcement agencies and 26 correctional facilities using these tests. North Carolina state's own crime labs face scandal, with a 2010 review uncovering 190 cases where analysts mishandled or misrepresented blood evidence over a 16-year period. The problem's made worse by a justice system that runs on plea bargains. The vast majority of drug cases are resolved through plea deals, often at the very first court appearance. Defendants, many of them sitting in jail because they can't afford a bond, face a terrible choice: plead guilty to a lesser charge and get out, or maintain your innocence and wait months or even years for a trial and for the proper lab testing that could set you free. ProPublica has estimated that at least 100,000 people nationwide plead guilty to drug charges that rely on field test results as evidence. Once a plea is entered, the evidence is often destroyed, making it impossible to ever prove one's innocence. For Daisha, her only hope was that the system would eventually correct its own mistake. Her lawyer fought for the evidence to be sent to the state crime lab for definitive testing. While the legal process crawled forward, Daisha endured the daily horror of incarceration. People she knew from her community now working in the jail would see her. She wasn't just an anonymous inmate, she was the meth girl. The humiliation was as much a part of her sentence as the confinement itself. The psychological toll was immense. She lost time with her family that she could never get back. As she later said, there's nothing they could do, no amount of money, to be able to put my arms around my daughter after she had her miscarriage. Every day she spent behind bars was a testament to a system that prioritizes speed and convenience over accuracy and justice. A system that accepts presumptive evidence as a fact, even when a person's life hangs in the balance. Exoneration and the aftermath. Finally, in March of 2017, after 3 long months, the official lab results from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation came back. The report was simple and definitive. The blue crystalline substance contained no controlled substances. It was exactly what Daisha had said from the very beginning. It was just cotton candy. The charges against her were dropped, but not right away. Even after the lab confirmed her innocence, she remained in jail for nearly 2 more weeks before being released on April 4th, 2017. The charges weren't officially dismissed until 2 weeks after that. On the day she was finally released, she walked out of the jail having lost a season of her life. She was free, but the damage was done. Her arrest record remained. The trauma lingered. So Daisha Fincher fought back. She filed a federal lawsuit against Monroe County, the 2 deputies that arrested her, and Searchy, the manufacturer of the NARC-2 test kit. Her lawsuit argued that the deputies were not properly trained and that they were reckless and negligent and that her civil rights had been violated. The outcome of her legal battle, however, offers little comfort. In 2020, her lawsuit was dismissed. The court ruled against her, and she received no damages for the 3 months of her life that were stolen from her. This outcome is tragically common. Lawsuits against government agencies are incredibly difficult to win, and the other cases filed against the test kit manufacturer had also been dismissed. There was no accountability for the deputies, for the county, or for the company that makes the test. After this case drew public outrage, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office made no public announcement that it had changed its policy on using these field tests. The system that failed Daisha Fincher was left completely intact, ready to fell the next person. Daisha Fincher's story is a shocking and infuriating example of what happens when the justice system puts its faith in flawed technology. These cheap, unreliable roadside tests are not a tool for justice, they're a catalyst for injustice. They are, as one Massachusetts judge characterized them, arbitrary and unlawful guesswork. Yet, a study by the Quattrone Center estimates they are used in approximately 773,000 drug-related arrests every year in the United States. Some jurisdictions have started to make changes. After devastating reports, Houston sharply curtailed its reliance on these tests. Some courts have begun to rule that these tests aren't scientifically reliable enough to even be shown to a grand jury. But these are the exceptions, not the rule. For the most part, the system continues to operate as it always has, sacrificing accuracy for cost and convenience. This story isn't just about one woman and a bag of cotton candy. It's about the thousands of lives ruined by wrongful arrests every year. It's about a system where pleading guilty can feel like the only rational choice, even when you're innocent. It begs the question, what would you do if you were in that car? If your freedom depended on a $2 test that could turn your life upside down in an instant? The fight for a fairer justice system is a long one, and stories like Daisha's are the reason we have to keep fighting. If you believe these stories need to be told, subscribe for more on the pursuit of justice and the cases that demand our attention. But what if you're pulled over on the side of the road and the police walk up to your car with a drug-sniffing canine? In my next video, The Canine Lie, I explain a whole other area of junk science that passes for probable cause. I'll see you over there. And remember, arrested doesn't mean guilty.